Уважаемый Владимир Владимирович, уважаемые коллеги, прежде всего, для меня большая честь, мне поручено как представителю.
As the hosting side TASS news agency, I've been charged with moderating this session. First, I would like to thank you, Mr. President, for responding to our request. This is the 9th meeting in this format, and year in, year out, there is a growing interest in this meeting. I remember you met with us last year, and colleagues from Reuters agency told me that they didn't remember there being any more flash news alerts after any other meeting. And this year has passed very quickly, but it's been packed with events, and there are 14 leading world news agencies present here. Everyone has been very happy to come. We know that your schedule today has been very packed as well, so without further ado, I suggest we should begin. First, I would like to say a couple of words. If you don't mind, I would like to welcome you. Thank you for your interest. I think we've listened to a short but wonderful concert of top-notch quality. The hour is late. We're all in a very good mood, so let's try to be as happy as we all can be. Let's take the highest note we can, as they say, and then we will go to bed. First, I would like to give the floor to our colleague from Vietnam, VNA, Vietnam News Agency, Director General, Madam Vu Viet Chang. This is the first woman to chair this agency. She holds enormous authority in Vietnam. She is a professional of world class. Madam Wu, over to you.
First of all, I would like to express our sincere thanks for TASS News Agency for arranging this very special interview with Mr. President, Mr. Vladimir Putin. And thank you for your time. Your Excellency, Mr. President.
Yes, thank you very much for your question and your welcoming remarks to the 18th St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. You said something which is of great interest to me. I would very much like to ask you, what is the agenda? What are the initiatives that could change the world for the better? Could you please elaborate on the initiatives Russia is taking to build a just and sustainable and rapidly developing world? And that agenda, what role do you see for Russia's cooperation with Asia and Southeast Asia and Vietnam in particular in that regard? Thank you. Well, officially, the agenda for the forum has already been announced. I'm not gonna dwell on that. But of course, we are not having such an ambitious goal as to change something in the world in the course of this forum. The discussions are not going to change anything, but, you know, the forum has been held for many years now. It first was held in the 90s, and it has been gaining momentum, as Mr. Guzman has pointed out. An increasing and growing number of our partners is coming to the forum, and the very fact that we're having conversations and the fact that we are signing a great number of agreements and deals and protocols, all of that is a very good testament to what we're doing. Our goal is to move further. I do not need to explain you why the circumstances are so difficult right now, because across the world there are conflicts raging, there are trade wars unleashed, And all of that creates difficulties in the way of the world trade. And there are grounds to believe that the forecasts saying that the world trade is going to slow down do have some foundations. So if we were to put aside the official agenda for a while, then our goal, I believe, is going to be to search together for the ways to overcome the difficulties we are facing. And this will allow us indirectly influence the situation in the world economy, given the fact that the forum is going to be attended by colleagues from different countries, colleagues who are holding leading positions in economy. There are going to be leaders from the world economies that are holding a great deal of sway in the world economics. So all of this is probably going to have a good impact on the economy. I do not think I need to explain to you that what we advocate is a just world order. We want the WTO rules to be observed rather than tweaked to serve some short-term political gains whenever it's necessary. We are also against any kind of trade war or trade restrictions. As far as our cooperation with Southeast Asia is concerned, it's developing steadily year in, year out. Our trade is growing. I'm not gonna name the figures right now so as not to make a mistake, but this is absolutely true. Our trade is growing, and it applies to all countries of the world, Vietnam in particular. I'm going to speak a couple of words about Vietnam, but I believe that Southeast Asia is a very promising avenue because the share of the southeastern economies and the world economy, as well as the economic growth rates, are ahead of the average indicators across the world, and we believe that these countries are very promising partners for Russia. As far as Vietnam is concerned, we have a special relationship with Vietnam. Everyone is well aware with that, starting from the 1950s or 1960s. It was particularly evident when the Vietnamese people fought for their independence. But since that time, it's been long. The world has changed, as have our countries. But this relationship of friendship and cooperation still persists. We have a great number of projects. There's the tropical center. There's also the energy, because we're working both in the Russian territory and in the Vietnamese territory, and we are willing to expand this cooperation, providing our Vietnamese partners with a chance to work in Russia in hydrocarbons. We're also cooperating in agriculture. Strange or bizarre as it may sound, Vietnamese enterprises are investing in Russian agriculture to the tune of billions of US dollars, and they have been performing admirably over the recent years. Many are certainly aware of these investments, and we will keep creating conditions to make sure that our entrepreneurs and business people from Vietnam feel as comfortable as possible. We also have some good groundwork in humanitarian sphere. I refer in particular to trained professionals. There are several thousand Vietnamese students studying in Russian universities, different faculties, and we will support this process because it's beneficial not just to Vietnam, but to us as well, because we are creating a very good human foundation for further developing our relations. I have been to Vietnam, and my delegation and I have met with the graduates from Russian universities. It's as if I had got back to homeland, because the atmosphere was very amiable and very friendly, and there is a huge deal of interest among all of these people to work with Russia. They're willing and they want to work with Russia, and what's more important, they've got the opportunities for that. The last visit of the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam to Russia has but confirmed that all of the plans we've got with Vietnam are absolutely realistic and are implementable, and we will keep pursuing the goals and accomplish them. Thank you, Mr. President. We still stay in Asia. I would like to give the floor to a great friend of ours, Director General and President of Xinhua News Agency, Fu Hua. He is a member of the Central Committee of the party. He's also a doctor in legal sciences. He participated in the BRICS summit last year, and Xinhua is a long-standing partner of ours. Over to you, sir. Thank you for this opportunity to ask a question. Mr. President, you are a long-standing and close friend of the Chinese people. Last time, you provided the Xinhua news agency's journalists to speak, and we would like to thank you for that. Right now, there is a question I would like to ask. Over the recent years, the Chinese-Russian relations of strategic partnership and comprehensive cooperation have been performing very well, making a contribution to strengthening mutual political trust. What do you think the possible avenues we can find for further expanding and developing ties between China and Russia? Last time you spoke about your family, saying that some of your members of your family are interested in studying Chinese. I'm sorry. So in that regard, what do you think is the role for popular diplomacy, for people's diplomacy, in strengthening the ties between Russia and China? Yes, I said that some of my family were studying Chinese. I spoke about my granddaughter. You know, there's like a nurse from Beijing, and she speaks Chinese with her freely, whereas my daughter, I think it was in the early noughties, my daughter decided to dive into Chinese. She simply wanted to study the Chinese language. But, you know, using that as a starting point, I can tell you there is a growing interest in studying Chinese in Russia. And there's nothing surprising about that. There is nothing in this that would set the Russian-Chinese relations apart or different from our relations with any other country. Because if there is a country with which our relationship is growing, if the economic ties are growing, then there is a growing number in professionals who can speak either English or German or, say, French, as it used to be in the 19th century, because French is still considered to be the language of diplomacy. But, well, now it has been supplanted with English to a certain extent. But now, as for growing contacts in different spheres, all of that pushes us towards the idea of studying the language. I think we've got 51,000 Chinese students studying in Russia, 21 or 25,000 Russian students are studying in China. Our universities have fostered direct contacts, in particular between the Moscow State University and other universities and the universities and the People's Republic of China. We also have many humanitarian contacts. To cite an example, we organize thematic years of Russia in China and China and Russia on a regular basis. If my memory serves me right, we started this process by organizing the year of the Chinese language in Russia and vice versa for the Russian language in China. And it was not a coincidence because it gave a huge impetus to the interest and mutual interest. Moreover, 240 billion US dollars of trade, that's important. And Russia is becoming a prominent trade partner for China in terms of economy. The number of investment projects that have been planned are to the tune of 200 billion US dollars. All of them are very realistic and practicable. All of them are going to be implemented and put into practice. And that means that we need professionals speaking Russian from China and vice versa, speaking Chinese from Russia. And this is gonna be the case. This is gonna happen. Right now, in terms of purchasing parity capacity, China is the first economy of the world. Russia ranks fourth, and this will only get better. I said that last year. This is not about Russia's alleged pivot to Asia. This is just a natural course of action because our economies are growing. We noticed this trend back in the early noughties or maybe the late 90s, and we started to pursue this path, fostering our relations. This is not about short-term interest. To a large extent, and I'm not going to open a secret to you, this is happening due to the fact that our economies are growing. And of course, the Chinese economy's quality is growing as well, and I do hope that Russian economy and Russian economic quality are also improving. Maybe we'll get back to that. But what kind of priorities does it set before us? Of course, we need to ensure the reliability of financial flows that sustain the growing trade of 240 billion US dollars. We also need to concentrate greater attention on high tech. And in that regard, I believe, and I do hope, our Chinese friends will find something to catch their interest in Russia and vice versa. We are moving closer to the project of a heavy helicopter. Of course, Russia is a leader in that regard, because even the UN is using our helicopters because we are the only ones in the world to produce that, and China and others are interested in that. After the tragic events, the natural disasters that happened, there are other avenues we could pursue, namely space exploration, aircraft construction. You know, there's something that has surprised me and has brought me joy at the same time. I see great Chinese achievements in the development of artificial intelligence. We see it's 10 times as cheap and 10 times as efficient as the results of our other colleagues. Or let's take genetics, which is a critical biological sphere. It's important both for medicine and for economy. And there is another thing. We're also developing our military and technical cooperation. And this is certainly very important to ensure stability in international affairs. We have a whole track dedicated to that cooperation. Our defense ministries have the plans for cooperation. We hold exercises on a regular basis, and we will hold exercises this year. We're also cooperating in the military and technical sphere. We are aware of the wishes of our Chinese friends. They are interested not just in purchases, but also in an exchange of technologies, and we will going to pursue these plans. Let's move to Europe. I would like to give the floor to a representative of a country that is very well known to you, namely Germany. We've got the head of news desk of DPA. News desk is at the core of any news agency. Matej Romanchik is a friend of ours. He was with us last year. He worked in different spheres. So over to you. And when you did sport, well, you covered sport. What sport did you pay greatest attention to? Football, first and foremost. Thank you. Mr. President, thank you for the invitation and for the chance to be here. Good evening, Mr. President. The new Federal Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, has recently said that he could contemplate holding a telephone conversation with you. Do you think that would be useful? Would you like to have a contact with the new Federal Chancellor? Do you think Friedrich Merz could be a more successful mediator between Russia and Ukraine than Donald Trump? Thank you.
If Mr. Federal Chancellor wants to call me and have a conversation, I have repeatedly said that we never abandoned any contacts and we are always open for that. Some 18 months ago or 2 years ago, such conversations were held with Chancellor Scholz and other leaders of Europe. They were regular, but at some point in time, when our European partners decided to inflict a strategic defeat upon us on the battlefield, they seized these contacts. They were the ones to seize them. They should be the ones to resume them. We are open for that. I've already said that. As to whether Germany can make a greater contribution than the United States as a mediator in our negotiations with Ukraine, I doubt that. A mediator should be neutral. When we see German tanks, Leopards on the battlefield, and we see that the Federal Republic is thinking about supplying Taurus to the Ukrainian territory, not only to use the equipment, but also that Bundeswehr officers would operate that. Then it begs the question, and everybody knows that should that happen, it would not affect the hostilities. This is ruled out. However, this will spoil our relations even further. That is why we consider Germany today, just like many other European countries, not as a neutral state, but as a party that supports Ukraine, and in certain cases as an accomplice to the hostilities. Nevertheless, if we're talking about a desire to talk on this matter, to present some ideas, let me once again reiterate, we're always open to do that. Thank you, Mr. President. Europe, once again, Reuters news agency needs no further introduction. Representatives of Reuters participated virtually all meetings. Here with us is the Global Managing Director, Simon Robinson. Incidentally, he was born in Australia, but he worked all over the world, in the Middle East, in the US, in Africa. He is here with us for the first time. He has some questions to you.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask a question, please, about Iran. Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel has said that Israel's attack on Iran may lead to regime change, and Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has called for Iran's unconditional surrender. I wonder if you agree with the Prime Minister and the President.
I didn't quite get your question. What do I agree with? What do you want me to agree all that? They said one thing and the other thing. And then you said, do you agree? What do I agree with?
With either of their statements, that it could lead to regime change and that Iran should prepare for unconditional surrender.
As you know, Russia and I personally keep in touch with Prime Minister of Israel on this matter, as well as with President Trump. You should always see whether the goal is achieved or not when you start something. We see that as of today, given all the challenging domestic processes there, we know about that, and there's no point in delving into that, but still there's a consolidation of society around the political leadership of the country. And, well, it happens virtually everywhere, all the time. Iran is no exception here. That's first thing. And the second thing, which is equally important, and everybody talks about that, I would just reiterate that, what we hear and see all around the place. These underground facilities, they exist and nothing happened to that. And hence, I believe it would be right for us all together to seek ways to end hostilities and to find ways to reach an agreement for all parties to the conflict, so that the interests of Iran could be ensured on the one hand, when it comes to its peaceful nuclear activities, naturally, peaceful nuclear activities. And I'm also talking about peaceful nuclear energy and the peaceful use of nuclear energy in other areas, as well as ensuring the interest of Israel in terms of unconditional security of the Jewish state. That is a subtle matter, and certainly we should be extremely careful here. But in my view, overall, such a decision could be reached. As you know, back in the time, we started implementing a project in Iran that was launched by German companies, and we built the Bushehr power plant. German companies left. Iranians asked us to follow up on that project. It was a difficult task because it was started by German specialists. It was their design, and Rosatom made a great deal of effort in order to adjust these to the Russian design. Nevertheless, we succeeded, and this unit has been operating successfully. We signed a contract to build 2 extra units, and this is a work in progress. Our experts are on the field. We're talking about over 200 people. And we agreed with the Israeli leadership that their security will be ensured. Overall, I believe that given the plans of Iran to keep on developing the peaceful nuclear program, I'm talking about the areas of agriculture that is applicable, as well as medicine and so on. But this is not nuclear energy. As well as nuclear energy, together with Iran, since we have this high level of trust between our countries, we have established very good relations. we could keep up with this effort and ensure their interests in this area. I would not delve into details, there are a lot of them. And all these details were discussed by us, both with the Israeli side, with the American side, and certain messages were sent to our Iranian friends. And overall, the interests of Iran in peaceful nuclear energy can be ensured. At the same time, we could lift concerns of Israel when it comes to its security. In my view, there are such options. Once again, we have outlined them to our partners, the US, Israel, and we reached out to Iran. We do not impose anything to anyone. We simply say how we see the way out of the situation. But certainly it's up to the political leadership of all these countries to decide, primarily Iran and Israel. Thank you, Mr. President. This year, as you might know, marks the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Russia and Indonesia. The Indonesian president came to St. Petersburg to take part in the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, but the media representative has outpaced his leader, and over to you. Thank you, Mr. President. Today we are very proud that we will witness the visit of President Prabowo to Russia. And we also would like to make a big contribution to the work of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. We see that President Prabowo has a special connection to Russia. Before his election, he already met with you, and we see it as a very important message for our countries. And there is another issue. What is the priority of President Putin with regard to Indonesia when our connectivity and relations with Russia are enjoying the 75th anniversary? Today, we already make investments. We have interaction in tourism sector, in the military sector. We cooperate in trade. Indonesia today tries to attract investment, especially from big countries where Indonesia has special programs in the development of nickel and the production of nickel. This product will be produced by Indonesia. That's the first question. And the second question, we would really like to know about Russia's contribution to improve this situation with economic uncertainty in the world. There is a situation that has to do with the axis of China and the axis of the United States. There is also an axis of other major countries of the world, and I believe that in the future, Asia would need some kind of certainty in economy, including in Indonesia, that has a huge potential in terms of the population, its workforce, and the geopolitical position on the international arena. You have identified and very well put and described the relations between Russia and Indonesia and between the presidents. He deemed it possible to have a visit to Moscow before his inauguration and after the election, and we appreciate that. That is a good sign that Indonesia under the current president seeks to have a comprehensive development of our ties. What can I say? Indonesia enjoys fast growth rates. It is becoming one of the major countries. Almost 300 million, 297 million. That is your population, right? Indeed, that is true. What is your population? It's almost 300 million, right? $280 million. 289 million. Many European countries, even in Russia, well, we consider ourselves to be great powers. Just come to think of it, Indonesia is home to 280 million, and it is fast developing. You know what's happening? The world is drastically changing. And it's not just about the population. It's about the fact that these countries and the economies are transforming quite rapidly. The structure of the economy is changing, just like the aggregate GDP, the growth rate, the increase, the level of education. And all these countries naturally would fight to achieve a higher level of revenues for the population. This will inevitably result in a number of measures in science, economy, education. They reach very significant positions in the world, in the global economy, and that's how we treat Indonesia. On top of that, we have very good decades-long trust-based relations. Certainly, there are traditional areas of our cooperation. We'll keep on supporting them, but certainly we will try to diversify our ties.
I believe that the level of trade today does not live up to our opportunities, and without any doubt, tomorrow we'll have a very meaningful conversation with the President of Indonesia. We'll discuss all priority areas for us. I would not like to jump the gun. He has just come to our country. Tomorrow we'll have several hours to talk to one another in detail. You have mentioned certain problems between the US and China with regard to tariffs and trade relations.
Indeed, the People's Republic of China has a surplus, trade surplus, and probably we need to balance that. But I agree with my Chinese friends. We need to do that in a calm way during negotiations, and for sure we can achieve the necessary results. I have no doubt that certainly the United States will draw this conclusion at the end of the day. The current actions of the current administration, well, they lower up, they ante up the negotiation process, but at the end of the day, it boils down to mutually acceptable solutions, and I believe that that will be the case here as well. By the way, the president of China came up with this strategy, Belt and Road Initiative, that seeks to create conditions for interaction with neighboring countries, not only close neighbors, but also countries that share common approaches to developing trade and economic ties. And this approach is successful. It really is. Indonesia starts to work within BRICS, and it is doing that in a quite a confident way. We would make sure that Indonesia is becoming a full member of BRICS, that it enjoys dividends and benefits from this shared efforts. It could feel that the BRICS family and the BRICS rules have a favorable impact on your economic development, and BRICS countries, including Russia, are interested in bolstering relations with Indonesia on the tracks that are priorities to you. And once again, primarily, we're talking about high tech. We have a lot to offer to our partners from Indonesia, and I'm positive that Indonesians too would be happy to offer their interesting ideas to us. That is something that we'll discuss at length tomorrow with the President. Thank you. For many years, we had very close partner relations with our friends from the Kazakhstan media. We have regular contacts. At a certain point in time, President of the Kazakhstan established a great complex, including this TV and radio complex of the President of Kazakhstan. Our colleague, Mr. Doldinov, is currently Deputy Director. He's on the other side of the table. Over to you.
Mr. President, thank you for the invitation. My question is as follows. The economic cooperation between Russia and Kazakhstan still has positive dynamics. What do you think our countries can do in order to stimulate further development of trade and economic ties between Russia and Kazakhstan, especially against the backdrop of global challenges?